Hello everyone. Today in Respiratory Physiology Part 1, we are going to discuss about ventilation and significance of lung volumes. So these will be the topics that will be covered in this topic: how ventilation is achieved, the lung volumes, significance of dead space ventilation, and minute ventilation. Normal physiological ventilation, as you all know, is negative pressure ventilation. So in ventilation, the most important aspect is the creation of a pressure gradient. You have to have a difference in pressure, which leads to a flow of air. And in negative pressure ventilation, the first thing that happens is the volume change, which causes a pressure difference, which causes the gas to flow and into the lungs and out of the lungs. How is this volume change caused? This is mainly by the respiratory muscles, primarily by the diaphragm, which moves downwards and causes an increase in negative intrapleural pressure, which draws air into the lungs. And the intercostal muscles acts to stabilize the rib cage during inspiration. And expiration is passive in normal physiological ventilation, and it occurs by the relaxation of the diaphragm, and as a result, because of the elastic recoil of the lungs and also the recoil of the rib cage, the lungs intrapleural pressure increases and the air is forced out of the lungs. In the initial part of the expiration, the elastic recoil of the lungs and the recoil of the rib cage acts in the same direction. But towards the end of the expiration, the rib cage exerts a force opposite to the elastic recoil of the lungs. And once these two forces balances out, the expiration stops. Coming to the lung volumes, before that, we'll go to some unique features in neonatal ventilation. The newborn ventilation is not as effective as the adult ventilation. The few causes for that is: one, the most important cause is the highly compliant chest wall. The newborn rib is mostly composed of cartilage, and as a result, it is very soft, and it is not as sturdy as adult rib cage. As a result, during inspiration, because of the soft compliant chest wall, there is indrawing of the rib cage, and as a result, it is not able to produce as high as intrapleural pressure as in adult ventilation. Another aspect is the horizontal ribs, which does not take part much in ventilation. And the diaphragm is morphologically flattened, and it is not as effective as in adult. In adults, the diaphragm acts as a piston, but in infant, it acts as a bellow. So it is less effective. And there is fewer fatigue-resistant slow-twitch type 1 fibers. As a result, the diaphragm gets fatigued earlier. So when there is respiratory distress, these babies can go to respiratory failure early. Intercostal muscle activity is inhibited during REM sleep. So these intercostal muscles are not able to stabilize the rib cage during REM sleep. And we know that preterm babies and term babies spend considerable amount of time in REM sleep. So these factors make neonatal ventilation less effective when compared to the adult ventilation. Coming to lung volumes. So this will be revision for you. Tidal volume is the amount of air that goes in and out of the lungs during a normal respiration. Expiratory reserve volume is the volume of air that can be forcefully expired out after the end of a normal expiration. And the residual volume is the volume remaining in the lungs after a forceful expiration. And when you combine the expiratory reserve volume and the residual volume, you will get the functional residual capacity, which is a very important volume. And it is this volume, from this volume that the pulmonary capillary vessels exchange the gases. So this is the buffer zone from which the gaseous exchange takes place across the alveolar capillary membrane. You know that when there is inspiration and expiration, there will be change in the alveolar partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. But this change is negated by this zone of buffer zone of air, that is functional residual capacity. That's because the gaseous exchange takes place between the functional residual capacity and the pulmonary capillary blood, even during inspiration and expiration. And this functional residual capacity provides a constant supply of oxygen into the capillary blood vessels, and also removes the carbon dioxide constantly, even during inspiration and expiration, constantly from the pulmonary capillary blood vessels. How is it possible for a continuous supply of oxygen and carbon dioxide during the expiration, both during the inspiration and expiration? This is brought about by the large volume of functional residual capacity. That is, it is almost 5 times the tidal volume. Tidal volume is around 5 to 7 ml per kg, but functional residual capacity is around 25 to 30 ml per kg. So it is 5 times the tidal volume. So only a fraction of oxygen, a fraction of gas is changed by the tidal volume. So functional residual capacity is able to keep the partial alveolar pressure of carbon dioxide and oxygen almost constant throughout inspiration and expiration. Another aspect you have to be aware of is the closing volume. This is the volume of air in the lungs when the alveoli starts to close. So usually this closing volume is less than the functional residual capacity. At functional residual capacity, usually all the alveoli are open. But in some conditions, like RDS or pneumonia, this closing volume can be more than the functional residual capacity. So at the functional residual capacity, the alveoli, more alveoli may be closed. Okay. And now, coming to the implications of functional residual capacity. So as I said earlier, it's a constant source of oxygen for the pulmonary capillary blood vessels, and also it receives carbon dioxide continuously from the pulmonary capillary blood vessels. So when the functional residual capacity decreases, it causes hypoxemia. This occurs because when the functional residual capacity decreases, it causes collapse of the alveoli, and the collapse of the alveoli does not take place in ventilation and gas exchange, and it results in hypoxemia. So how do we know whether this hypoxemia is due to the less functional residual capacity or due to any other reason? So that can be found out only by increasing the descending pressure of the lungs. That is mainly by increasing the CPAP or the PEEP when ventilated baby. So when you increase CPAP or PEEP, the FiO2 requirement is coming down. Then that means that you were ventilating the baby at below optimum functional residual capacity. So hypoxemia is an important important effect when you are ventilating at less optimum functional residual capacity. Another implication is the lung compliance. So when you are ventilating in a when you are ventilating with less than optimum functional residual capacity, most of the alveoli will be closed, and it takes more distending pressure for the alveoli to open. So you need to give more distending pressure for adequate increase in volume. And when you are giving more than optimum functional residual capacity, all the alveoli is already open and they are over distended. So they will not take place. They will not participate in gases exchange. As a result, there will be carbon dioxide retention. So both are not good. It should not be underventilating, or you should not be overventilating. When you are in optimum functional residual capacity, then you need minimum distending pressure to cause increase in volume, and you can ventilate with the lungs with less pressures. Coming to the dead space ventilation. Now, all the tidal volume that enters the lungs does not take part in gases exchange. So a part of the tidal volume occupies the areas in the lungs which does not take part in gases exchange. So these are mainly the anatomic dead space, when this is a volume of air that occupies the conductive airway, that is from the nose to the terminal bronchiole. Also, some of the alveoli may not be perfused well, so these also will not take place in gases exchange. This is called the alveolar dead space. So when combining the anatomic dead space and alveolar dead space is the physiological dead space. So this air will not take part in gases exchange. Now, the anatomy dead space is usually 2 ml per kg in a normal newborn. Now, the significance of dead space ventilation comes when you ventilate a very extreme low birth weight baby. When you intubate this baby, you should cut the PT tube as short as possible so that to reduce the anatomic dead space. Because in these babies, we will be ventilating like 5 ml per kg, and 5 ml per kg, and out of the 2 ml per kg will be the dead space, and then only 3 ml per kg will be participating in gas exchange. So we have to decrease the dead space as much as possible. Coming to minute ventilation. Minute ventilation is the amount of air that enters the lungs in a minute. So that is we get that value by multiplying the tidal volume with the respiratory rate. And out of this, only a part of the volume will take part in gases exchange. That is the alveolar minute ventilation. We can get the alveolar minute ventilation by reducing the dead space from tidal volume. So when you subtract dead space from tidal volume, multiply with the respiratory rate, you will get the alveolar minute ventilation. And this is the determinant of carbon dioxide removal. When there is increase in alveolar minute ventilation, there will be carbon dioxide washout. There's decrease in alveolar minute ventilation, there will be retention of the carbon dioxide. It is inversely proportional. And what is the significance of alveolar minute ventilation? When you are ventilating a baby and there is carbon dioxide retention, there are two ways in which you can increase the minute ventilation. One is increasing the tidal volume, and the other is by increasing the respiratory rate. Now, which one is the better option? So definitely increasing the tidal volume will be the better option, because when you are increasing the tidal volume, your dead space is fixed. So the proportion of increasing alveolar minute ventilation will be more when you are increasing the tidal volume. When you are increasing the respiratory rate, definitely your minute ventilation will increase, but proportionally the dead space ventilation also will increase. So the increase in alveolar minute ventilation will not be as much as when you increase the tidal volume. But the problem is that we cannot increase the tidal volume beyond a particular level. So we will have to increase the respiratory rate times. Now the normal minute ventilation in normal newborn is around 200 to 300 ml per kg. That's all for now. So let's see you in another part 2 of the physiology of ventilation. Thank you.